So I wanted to do kind of a quick overview of the Cybergun KWC Colt 1911 railgun. I did a lot of research before buying a gas pistol. I'm completely new to gas pistols, but have been an airsoft fan for some time, and just kind of got back into it, mainly just to kind of plink and have a little fun. Now, first thing I wanted to make sure of when looking at this was, could I remove the orange tip? And the answer is yes, you can, but it does take a little bit of work. So this is how the gun came, with the orange tip in there. And to remove it, what I would recommend is taking the assembly all apart and just having the barrel itself. And what I did is I put it into near boiling water in the glass measuring cup. I filled it with the hot water out of a Keurig machine, just the hot water, and let it soak for about 10 minutes and work it a little bit. It was a little tough, and so it took almost 3 different times of refilling the hot water. I didn't want to submerge it so much. I only had maybe this much of the barrel actually submerged. I did take it apart, and so I did not want to do any damage to this part of the barrel. So I didn't want to do any solvents or adhesive removal or anything that would maybe do some damage to that. Just soaked it in hot water for probably a total of 30 minutes, but 3 different times so that the temperature was always fairly hot. Eventually, after putting little jar grips on here, the grippy things, then also around the tip, and I used a pliers and needle nose pliers on here, rotate it counterclockwise to get it out, and eventually it came out. It did take a lot of work. You can see that there is some cement goo on there that was used only on that front little portion though, and unfortunately I did get some pliers marks on here because I had to wrench it a pretty good amount, but the tip still works. I can still screw it back in, so if I want to have it on there, I certainly can. You just screw it back in, and it works. And so the first thing is, yes, it does come out. So I'm guessing all the KWC 1911s will work like that. It is threaded, and so the inner barrel is threaded. And I'm just trying to get it to focus a little bit here. Okay, there we go. So it is a threaded inner barrel. It is a 12 millimeter threading. 12 millimeter. And so what I wanted to do then is to make sure I can get a thread adapter that would fit in here. And I did a lot of research. I tried to find the right thread adapter, and it is the Swiss Arms 12 millimeter to 14, and it's called just thread adapter, muzzle protector. It did come with this portion here, which screws on the tip, so if I were to screw that in, I could screw that on top, and it actually looked kind of sweet with it. I liked it, but it is clockwise to screw into the gun, but counterclockwise to screw into a mock suppressor. And so whenever you are tightening it into the gun, it loosens on the suppressor. So if I were to tighten it all the way into the suppressor and then try to screw it in here, then it would still loosen up. And so it was kind of a balance issue where trying to get it to equal out, could never really get it. And so what I unfortunately had to do is I put some thread tape on the inside of this and screwed it in here, and it held a lot better, but it still would loosen up. So I put thread tape around it and then a little bit of Gorilla Glue, screwed that in counterclockwise to get it fit, and let it sit overnight. And now it's in there pretty solid, so I'm not going to be taking this part, the actual adapter part, in and out often. So I'm not really going to be using this at all, but all right. Now, I know when I was looking into this, the folks said, we'll just get the Elite Force 1911 TAC. It's got the threaded barrel. You can take the suppressor on and off. And that was great, but I didn't like having the threading exposed on the end of this. I like this clean look a lot better. and it does. It looks really nice. It works well. Now, of course, don't go running around with this and being foolish. Always put this tip on there if you're going to be out and about. And the good thing is when you take it out, you can still put it right back in. All right. So the next thing was, yes, this comes out. Yes, you can fit a suppressor as long as you get the Swiss Arms thread adapter. Again, 12 millimeter to 14. So that fits in, then any mock suppressor should work. This is a Lancer Tactical 5.5 inch suppressor, and I like it. It's just very basic. The suppressor itself is about 20. The adapter itself was about 10. I got it off of evic.com, the adapter part. Also found it on Replica Airguns and a few other sites, but within the United States I wanted to order, and so evic was fairly easy to just get that sent out. Now, the next part was the grips, and the grips I did not love. These are the original grips here. They were more of a dark green color, and I didn't love the dark green color, so I just unscrewed them with a flathead screwdriver, pretty simple, and painted them with acrylic paint. So just acrylic black paint, made them all black, super easy, super cheap. Acrylic paints, any craft store, get a couple of little brushes and the paints, and it was only a few bucks. The paint itself is, I think, less than $2 for a decent sized bottle. So once I painted these black, they actually look quite nice on there, but they are plastic, they are kind of slick, they didn't have good grip, but they look fine. If you want to get replacements, they have the Cybergun Elite Force replacement grips with the little notched out area for the CO2, but they're only the snakeskin colored one and the brown, and I could not find any others. Even just the normal black ones that are on the other Elite Force tacks, couldn't find them. And so I painted them, and I was like, all right, that's not bad. But I wanted to one-up that, and I ordered the Magpul Grips. Now, the next thing was, well, will these grips work on this gun? And the answer is yes, but it takes some work. And so what I found is that the CO2 portion, that little hump right there, does affect how the grips will fit. And so any 1911 grips, full size, will fit on this gun, but you do need to do a little work. And so to do that work, I got this sucker right here, which is a rotary file. And this was only about $2.50 from a main hardware store, so I got it from Menards. But I'm sure any hardware store would have something like this. It's not very big, but it has got little teeth on there. That's good for filing away at plastics, metals, wood maybe. But this one worked really well, actually. So I just put it on the end of this drill and could spin that around. And what I would do is take the grip. I wish I had a little bit better visual here, but I put it on the end of this table. I have a couple of vice clamps, pretty cheap vice clamps, that I put on here to kind of grip it down, hold it in place. And as it was gripped, I would take the file drill and chisel away a little bit. And this is the original grip that was on there. You can see the little notch that's in there for the CO2. That is not on there on any other 1911 grip. So what I did is I took the Magpul grip, placed it just like here, kind of measured a little bit, but mainly I just filed a lot of this area and just went back and forth, and I kept having to check it. I didn't want to overdo it, and I did not want to damage the grips because they weren't dirt cheap, but they weren't super expensive. They were about $18. So you can get these roughly $20. Shipped to your door, Magpul grips. And once I was able to shave that down, it fits fairly flush, not 100% perfect, but pretty close, and I really like the way that it turned out. So they do fit on there. You can put 1911 grips on a Cybergun or KWC 1911. You just need to file the back side underneath there to fit that CO2 hump. and then screw them back on, and they work just fine. And so the gun itself, full metal, feels great, has been shooting fine, and really enjoyed it. Able to take the tip off, put new grips on. You can work a silencer or suppressor with it, but you need that adapter. And just for fun, I also got a laser, and this is the Hawk Gazer HGLG9. It is a green laser, so I like the green much better than red. And a lot of the cheap airsoft lasers are all red, and they're also pretty darn cheap. So this being about $45, not dirt cheap, but not super expensive either. I'm not trying to, win any competition shooting or something. It's only for an airsoft gun. It's not going to be the most accurate thing ever. But once I put this on, and you can adjust the laser to the sight, and that's what I did at about 30-40 feet, and then fired it just using the laser and not really guiding with the iron sights. The laser was pretty much on. I was impressed that it stayed pretty accurate. But you can take that on and off, and that is nice. The suppressor downside, I will say that sometimes when firing this, a BB would hit on the inside here, and that was not the coolest thing ever. If you're running low on CO2, take the suppressor off or just don't use it. Even the first few shots are kind of hot, and they come out and maybe clip the top of this. The last few shots of the CO2 tank will clip the bottom of it. So with this one at least, I could, if I wanted to, take the portion off. I'm setting it down so I can do it. I can take this off. I don't think all mock suppressors work like this, but a handful do. And you can screw this part off, and it's just kind of open. Now it looks a little foolish because you're just shooting with a cone on the end of your disc, or on the end of your gun. But when that's on there, there's nothing for it to hit, and so it works pretty much flawlessly. And so you could do that without any worries. For me, I'll leave this on it and maybe just use it sometimes. But for actual firing of the gun, it doesn't have any advantage. It just more for the looks. Now as for the gun itself, heavy, solid, works well, enjoyed it so far. For the money, it was about $100. Anywhere from $100 to $110 now. They're pretty available for the most part. The last thing I will mention is the magazine. I'm not a huge fan of, and it's not just the capacity. It's about, they say 17 rounds. I'm going to say 14, but trying to push this down, even now, it's strong. It's a strong spring, and you can't do it with your fingernail. It hurts like hell. And so to hold it all the way down here to load the BBs is a pain in the butt, and it's a big drawback. I know that they have the extended magazine. There's also the Red Wolf Airsoft magazine that works with the Nighthawk Customs 1911 that are all OEM by KWC. So those mags will work. I actually ordered one, but it's going to be a little while before that gets here. So I hope that'll be a little bit nicer. So magazine's okay. I only load about 14 in there, because if you load more in this open spot, the pin one time firing popped out and it didn't feed the BBs, and it was just kind of weird. Maybe a little more work with it will loosen it up. I don't know. But for now, new grips, looking good. The gun itself holding up decently. I only fired it about 4 or 5 times, and there's already some scratches. This kind of started off as a scratch out of the box. It wasn't shipped very well. I was kind of disappointed. A little bit of wear right there. Don't love that at all, but I've been keeping it oiled, put silicone oil underneath and any sliding moving parts. But watch the videos about how to take it apart. In summary, you can take the orange chip off. You can attach a suppressor. Just use that adapter. You can change the grips, but use something like this to file the back side of it. And that's pretty much it. Any questions, just let me know. I'm kind of a new person with gas pistols, but it's been a lot of fun to shoot. And so I would recommend this gun based on just about nothing. I just like it. It's a good time. All right, take care.